The time the moon was put on trial, not once, but across centuries, in courts both earthly and divine. Imagine the moon standing before a judge, accused of crimes it never committed. From causing madness to disputes over ownership, humans have placed Earth's glowing companion in history's strangest courtrooms. This isn't fantasy, it's a record of bizarre, real-life battles tied to the moon. The idea of lunacy, madness caused by the moon, was no metaphor in medieval Europe. Courts once took it seriously, believing the full moon could drive people to crime. Some defendants claimed their actions were beyond control because of lunar influence. Judges occasionally adjusted sentences, effectively putting the moon on trial as a force that altered human behavior. Even the word lunatic carries the moon's legacy. These beliefs blurred law, medicine, and superstition, where society debated whether human violence was born from within or borrowed from the night sky. Ancient Babylonians and Romans believed the moon governed not just tides, but human fate. Judges and rulers sometimes consulted astrologers before making rulings, considering the moon's position in the sky. In these moments, the moon wasn't just a witness, it became evidence, an unearthly authority influencing earthly justice. To our modern minds, this seems absurd. Yet, in the ancient world, denying the moon's authority could mean ignoring divine law. The courtroom, the battlefield, and the palace all treated the moon as a silent but powerful participant. During the Middle Ages, England's legal system recognized moon madness in surprising ways. Jurors sometimes considered the lunar cycle when deciding whether an accused person acted with intent or under supernatural influence. In certain cases, crimes committed during a full moon were judged less harshly, as if the moon shared guilt. This strange blend of law and superstition reveals how deeply the moon's pull was believed to shape human lives. Instead of seeing crime as an individual's burden, society sometimes shared the blame with the stars. By the 17th century, the moon faced a different kind of trial. Scientific. Galileo Galilei dared to say the moon wasn't a perfect heavenly body, but a world of mountains and craters. The Catholic Church saw this as heresy. Though Galileo himself was placed on trial, the moon was effectively the evidence in question. Was it divine and flawless, or scarred and earthly? Telescopes turned the moon into an unwilling defendant in one of history's greatest clashes between science and faith. Humanity was no longer judging criminals under the moon, but the moon itself as an object of truth. Fast forward to the 19th century. As science advanced, courts still wrestled with lunar influence. Doctors testified about lunar lunacy, claiming mental illness worsened during a full moon. These testimonies sometimes swayed judges, showing how superstition lingered in modern law. Newspapers reported sensational cases of crimes caused by the moon, fueling public fascination. Though science would later dismiss most of these claims, the moon continued to stand accused, its light blamed for madness, violence, and chaos. In a way, society refused to let go of the ancient idea that our fates were chained to its glow. The 20th century put the moon in courtrooms in an entirely new way. Ownership disputes. As space travel became real, people asked who owns the moon. In 1936, a man named John R. Maney claimed property rights over it, and even tried to sell lunar land. Courts were forced to consider whether celestial bodies could be private property. The idea sounded absurd, but it sparked genuine legal debate. Could someone hold the title deed to the moon? Judges had to balance old property laws with a future none had imagined. The moon was no longer guilty, it was real estate. The strangest claim came in 1953, when a man named David L. Levy filed a declaration of ownership over the moon with his local government. He even charged fees to people for using it without permission. While most dismissed him as eccentric, the filing was technically accepted, raising uncomfortable questions. If no one stopped him, did he legally own the moon? Cases like these blurred the line between parody and precedent. Once again, the moon was dragged into legal absurdity, not as a heavenly force but as an economic commodity, standing trial in humanity's court of greed and imagination. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 officially declared that no country could claim ownership of the moon. It was meant to prevent a space-land rush. However, private individuals argued this left room for personal claims. Judges had to dismiss lawsuits filed by self-proclaimed owners of the moon, setting legal precedents that the moon belonged to everyone and no one. But the treaty didn't silence the dreamers. Some continued to argue their paperwork was valid, treating the moon like disputed farmland in an intergalactic courtroom drama. Even after treaties, the moon's ownership wasn't settled. In 1980, Dennis Hope, an American entrepreneur, filed a claim and began selling lunar plots to millions of people. He argued no one owned the moon, so he was free to claim it. Courts dismissed him, but his lunar embassy business thrived, selling novelty deeds to celebrities and corporations. Once again, judges and lawmakers had to decide if his claims were harmless fun or fraudulent schemes. The moon became both a marketplace and a battleground, as earthly greed reached for its cold, distant surface. By the late 20th century, the United Nations revisited lunar law with the Moon Treaty of 1979. This agreement went further than the Outer Space Treaty, declaring that the moon's resources belonged to all humanity and could not be privately exploited. Yet, most major spacefaring nations, including the United States, Russia, and China, refused to sign. Why? They didn't want to limit future mining rights. In effect, the moon was once again on trial, this time as a contested treasure chest. Who should benefit from its resources, the entire world, or those bold enough to reach it first? Modern psychology also kept the moon in the courtroom spotlight. Police departments across the UK and US once scheduled more patrols during full moons, convinced crime spiked with lunar cycles. Studies investigated links between moonlight and violence, psychiatric admissions, and accidents. Results? Inconsistent. Some showed small correlations, others found none. Yet, the very fact that researchers tested the moon in controlled studies shows how deeply the ancient myth endured. In a way, science became a judge, cross-examining the moon under the microscope of statistics. The verdict: the moon may shine bright, but it casts more superstition than proven crime. Even in the 21st century, stories of the moon's supposed influence reach modern courts. In 2007, a British lawyer argued that her client was more likely to commit violence during a full moon, citing psychiatric studies. The case was widely reported, reminding the public that lunar defense arguments hadn't vanished. Judges ultimately dismissed such claims, but the incident revived centuries-old debates. Should celestial cycles ever play a role in human justice? Or does blaming the moon distract from personal responsibility? Once more, the moon was not a passive observer, but a defendant in humanity's endless quest for excuses. The moon's role in folklore also echoes in unexpected legal corners. In rural communities worldwide, claims of livestock attacks, disappearances, or even crop failures were sometimes tied to moon phases. Though rarely formal court cases, these accusations lived in community councils and village justice systems. Imagine defending yourself against a neighbor's charge that your actions coincided suspiciously with a blood moon. While the modern legal system may laugh, in small villages, the moon once served as evidence. In these grassroots trials, the moon wasn't just an alibi or accomplice. It was a silent witness in disputes over survival. Astronomy itself sometimes felt like a courtroom, with scientists arguing whether the moon shaped human evolution. Some studies suggested tidal cycles driven by the moon influenced how life adapted along ancient coastlines. Without the moon, human history might never have unfolded the same way. It's a cosmic defense statement. The moon wasn't a criminal, but perhaps humanity's co-creator. Standing in the trial of history, the moon could plead not guilty, instead arguing it had nurtured life itself. This shift from suspect to benefactor reframes the way we judge our only natural satellite. Yet legal quarrels over the moon keep resurfacing. In 2016, a Spanish woman named Ángela Durán filed a property claim on the moon with her local notary office. She argued no one else had claimed it in her country, so it should belong to her. The filing went viral, though courts later clarified she held no real rights. Still, it highlights how people treat the moon like a legal loophole waiting to be exploited. In human imagination, the moon is both priceless and ownerless, making it irresistible for those hoping to turn law into personal cosmic gain. Beyond ownership, the moon's very image has been policed in art, religion, and culture. In some periods, depictions of the moon as flawed or earthly drew backlash, as though humanity feared diminishing its sanctity. In effect, artists and thinkers stood trial, accused of insulting the moon. This mirrors the way Galileo's sketches once faced condemnation. Whether in a courtroom or a council chamber, the moon remained a powerful symbol too sacred for some, too ordinary for others. Each debate put the moon back on the stand, its round face caught between reverence and rebellion. Today, the moon's trial continues not in courts, but in politics. With nations planning moon bases and commercial mining operations, the old treaties face new tests. Will the moon be treated as common heritage or divided like Earth's territories? The debates echo colonial land disputes of the past. Once again, the moon is caught between human ambition and human law. Its future may hinge on whether nations cooperate or compete for control. If history teaches us anything, it's that the moon will remain humanity's most enduring defendant, forever standing trial in our collective imagination. Across history, the moon has been accused of crimes, praised as a savior, and fought over as property. It has been judged in medieval courts, scrutinized by scientists, and claimed by opportunists with pens and stamps. Yet the moon itself remains silent, unmoved by human drama. Perhaps the real trial isn't of the moon at all, but of us, our beliefs, our greed, our fear, and our imagination. The moon becomes a mirror, reflecting not guilt or innocence, but the strange ways humanity projects its struggles onto the night sky. So, was the moon ever truly on trial? In a sense, yes, again and again, across cultures and centuries. Whether blamed for madness, fought over as property, or debated in global treaties, the moon has always been forced to answer humanity's questions. Yet, maybe it isn't the moon we've judged, but ourselves. Our fear of the unknown, our hunger to control, our endless search for meaning. And that raises a question for you. If we keep putting the moon on trial, what does that say about us?